What we have now is a group of the stars, who some of you might know that course now as Launchpad. And we're going to have a Q&A, a question time with them. But that's going to be facilitated by our very own Marcus Stone. So let's give it up for Marcus Stone!
Thank you, Robert. Hello, everybody. This is slightly strange for me, actually. I'm normally sat down there with you guys, so this feels a little bit odd. And I was saying to people this morning that I think I was in denial because I felt just excited. I am now feeling pretty nervous, so I think I was right. I was in denial. So as Robert said, we're going to have a panel here, which is made up of 2 years of Nick's business mentoring program. The original program was called, or the first program was called the Stars Mentoring Group, which is where the name Stars come from. And they're stars, obviously, goes without saying. And also the Coach Success Program, which is still just going, which I'm a part of. And also the Business Launchpad. So without further ado, can I ask the panel, please, to come up to the stage?
The music! The music!
Where's Finn's
Oh, do you want us to move down?
No.
Right, okay.
You just stay there.
Oh, yeah.
So, everybody, we have on the panel today, we have Dr. Caroline Half.
Hello.
Osman Sabir. Nathan Blair. And Olivia Minoru. Is that all right?
Yeah, you said it right.
Okay, that's good. So, the way this is going to work is I'll probably start off and ask a question, but it's going to be interactive. So I will be coming to the audience at various points, and so as questions arise, keep them with you and feel free to ask as we go along. So one of the things, oh, by the way, welcome to my home. Do you like it?
Nice.
Yeah, I've invited a few friends around, so there's no need to feel nervous. It's going to be great. So one of the things that occurred to me during Catherine's talk and also Nicola's was the word courage was used a few times. So Olivia, let's start with you. Thinking about courage, what was one of the fears or the biggest fear that you had when you were starting this whole journey? And how did you find the courage to overcome that?
Hello. Is that working?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's working.
Thanks, Marcus.
That's all right.
Nice question. I think courage has come into... my business is called The Life Safari, and it wasn't actually a business, it was just an idea, and I thought I'd try it. And that was the first kind of moment of courage, was saying, I've got this idea, I want to do it, it's a really big idea, it's really close to my heart, let's just do one and see what happens. And then if that goes well, I'll do another. So that was in July that I made that decision to do one. And I guess I can explain later what it actually is. But by August, I started kind of rounding people up to join this experience called the Life Safari. And the thing that took the most courage was making the phone calls. Because most of these people that happen to be my clients are also my friends, or they are friends of friends. So there isn't that kind of distance between me and them where it's like an online connection. It's about me picking up the phone and saying, oh, hi, I know you've been quite interested in coming on the Life Safari. Do you want to chat about it? And because they're my friends, it was that whole icky, oh, am I getting into the weird sales space with a friend of mine? What does that make me look like? Do I look like I'm trying to sort of, sell them something? But the thing is that friendship was actually what made it possible for them and I to connect and for them to commit to coming on this journey with me. Because they trust me and they know who I am, and I don't have to pretend to be anyone else. I can just be myself. And then I know that once we have that connection and they know who I am, there's no there's no need for me to kind of keep up any other appearance or any other persona. I just can relax. So yeah, it's kind of a long answer, but for me, courage was actually picking up the phone and calling people.
Right, and just being yourself in that moment.
Being myself. And I have a funny memory because Marcus is actually one of these friends that is now coming on the experience. And when I called Marcus to have that phone call, I was actually pushing my son in the pram. So, and he started crying halfway through the phone call.
That's your son, not
no.
me.
So there I was pushing the pram, I had the phone in my pocket, I had the earphones in my ear, and I'm trying to have this terribly kind of important call with Marcus. And then he erupts in the pram, but Marcus didn't seem to mind.
No, I was just so excited. That was really great. Thanks,
Thank
Olivia.
you.
That's great. So Nathan, around the same sort of question, and having heard what Olivia said, what would you answer to that question?
I was just thinking actually while Olivia was speaking, and I think my answer is quite similar, but different. So I think for me, what was a sort of courageous moment, I suppose, was to actually stop taking myself so seriously. I think I am a massive perfectionist, and I also had an image of the coach I wanted to be and the business I wanted to have and how that looked in my head. And I think I was trying to get to the summit before I'd got to, first base. And the way that would show up would be, in conversations with potential clients, and with maybe the way that I put off sending emails to people because I didn't feel like I had enough of this or that, and put off maybe putting up a website. And it was when I realized that actually just, where I am right now is where I am right now. So at this moment in time, that's where my business is at. And so I began to operate from that place, rather than from a place that's, not actually now. And just kind of brought more of myself to the pie, I suppose. It was, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because that ties in with what Catherine was saying as well about, starting here where you are now and not being, taken into account of this big dream that you've got.
Yeah.
So there's something rather lovely about that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there's an opportunity maybe for people in the room. Do we have a microphone for the room? We do. Karen, thank you. So is there anybody who's got a question at this stage around that? Has anything come to mind yet? No questions. We have a question down here, Karen.
Hi there. It's not a question, more a comment, and that was just thank you for sharing that, because it's such a small thing, but it's so big that we never really factor in. So thank you for sharing that as a response.
I think it's something just important to remember. It takes the pressure off. Osman, do you have anything to add to that?
I think if I was to pick out one moment, it was starting my coaching business straight after another business basically completely failed. So after I started the diploma, I had a big fear of failure, especially with coaching, because I found something which I really enjoyed, so I didn't like the idea that it might not work out. But for various reasons, I actually, in between that startup and the conference company, which completely bombed. So I was quite down about that, and I think it would have been easy for that experience to get me down, and I was feeling quite sorry for myself at that point in time. So for me, it was the fact that I kind of just got back up on my feet and did it, despite the fact that I was quite worried about having a second business failing. So if I was to pick out one area, it would probably be that, yeah.
Yeah, okay, nice, thanks. So a slightly different question for you, Caroline, moving things on a little bit. I know for me, one of the big things was, how am I going to get clients? I've trained as a coach, I've done my practice coaching, but actually now I'm talking about setting a business up. How am I going to get clients? It's a very simple question for you. How did you get clients? actually, it's a simple question for me to ask.
It's a very simple question to ask. And it's not a very easy one to answer. I didn't have any problem getting clients for my coaching hours, and they were all done on a time banking basis. But when it actually came to setting up my business, that was a different thing. And I think that if it's okay, because I was left out of courage, I would like to say a little bit about that.
Fair point.
Because for me, some of courage is about perception. And I've always shared my personal story of illness and recovery, and coaching is one of the things that helped me recover. And people come up to me and say, gosh, you're so courageous to share that. But it's never felt like courage. I never needed any courage to do that. As a doctor, if I can't stand up and put my hand up to being ill and not feel any stigma about that, that would be a very sad thing. But it did take courage for me to step out of my comfort zone. And one of those areas was in getting clients. Now, doctors are probably the only professionals who spend all their time trying to keep people away from them. So my whole background is based on keeping people away. So trying to get people to come to me was very, very difficult. And to be honest, and there's no point in not being honest, I had all the fears and the procrastinations that we've heard so clearly described this morning. And one of the things that I really knew from my heart was that I needed help. I couldn't do it alone. And I needed more than just being part of the community and Facebook and that sort of thing, which was why I signed up for the STARS programme. And it was amazing. And when we started the STARS programme, Nick asked us how much we wanted to earn, and one of the things I said was I wanted to earn £1. And he looked at me and he said, £1? And I said, yes, I want to be in profit. And it's to do with this business of turnover, isn't it? Because I said, if I make lots of money, then I'm going to go on a course in Australia. But it was about actually being in profit. And I knew that I didn't have a business until I had some clients. So I learned things on the programme, and I had to step out of my comfort zone in getting clients. And now I have individual clients and I have corporate clients. And one of the things I've had to do is toughen up. Because what if people don't want me, which isn't something I was used to as a doctor. Everyone wants to see a doctor. But I've become more tough, and the way I've become more tough is the way we've heard it described this morning. You take that step. Nicola described it quite clearly in speaking. You have to take the step, and that will help you.
Thank you. That's great. Steps. So does that resonate with anybody? Has anybody got any questions out there now about clients? Yes, at the back there. Where's Karen?
My name is Caesar. I would love to actually hear from you guys a bit about your businesses because I know they all differ, so I'm hoping that comes up at some point.
Oh, that's a good point, actually. I did mean to say, just give a minute of introduction. So I'll do that now. So, Olivia, you've got 30 seconds to a minute. Just to quickly tell us who you are and where.
I love how you do things backwards.
I know, yeah.
Great.
It's
great.
just random.
Good to be different. It's random. So, gosh, 30 seconds. I could go on for hours, so,
please
drag me off stage. There goes my 30 seconds. I'm really big on providing people with experiences. Some may know I used to be a Zumba instructor and spin, and I loved the way people would come in all grumpy from work, and they'd leave feeling like they're Beyonce. And that was just the guys, And I love giving people an experience where it lights them up. And I'm really big on looking at strengths rather than weaknesses. And my career prior to being, a coach and running the Life Safari was actually as an aid worker. And in the aid and development sector, we focus a lot on weakness and not so much on people's strengths. But I learned from a few great examples around the world where communities focused on their strengths and they didn't wait for outsiders to help them, that is where the change happens. And as coaches, we see that in our clients. The other thing that really drives me is about connecting with people at a human level and having really amazing conversations about life and the things that are interesting to us, the things that matter to us, things like resilience, resourcefulness, how we overcome challenges. So kind of taking those things, I was like, what the hell do I do with that to make a business? And for a long time, it was on the front of my nose and I couldn't see it. And everyone kept saying, you need to start taking people to see the communities that you've worked with overseas, to see, what this is all about. And I was like, I don't want to go anywhere near NGOs anymore. I don't want to do that anymore. Do I sound like Catherine? I don't want to do that anymore. But actually, that's what people want, and that's what I do naturally and what I'm good at. So I started the Life Safari with the first trip in January. It's an adventure, it's a trip. I've taken 8 people. Some of them are in the room here. They're coming with me to Kenya. We're going to stay with the community I've been working with for years, who are a really strong community. They have coaches and facilitators locally in that community. And we do lots of other fun stuff, but it's really going with very little agenda, just to listen, to chat, to talk about life, and to have some fun and engage as humans. And if I may say, there's another one coming up in April.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Olivia. So Nathan, tell us a bit about yourself.
So I coach, I have a sort of an affinity, or my ideal client, so to speak, are people who are feeling unfulfilled at work, who are potentially doing a job that looks good, feels bad. And I help people find out what they really want and then help them create amazing lives where they get paid to be themselves, essentially. Interestingly, I think I'm quite unusual in that I've gone from a full-time job to a part-time job to mostly coaching into a full-time job again with Animas. So I've just joined Animas as head of the Centre for Professional Coaching Excellence, which is the what a name! Which is everything after you qualify. So it's the ICF credentialing, the CPDs, and supervision, and I'm doing that full time. But I still run a coaching practice. So I actually have 5 clients at the moment, and I'm doing a full-time job. And that's early days, but it's interesting. If you've got any questions about how I'm managing that might be quite interesting for some of you guys who may have full-time jobs. And yes, that's just me.
I think actually, Nathan, thank you. I think that is an interesting point about when you qualify as a coach, you're probably going to be doing something different that you haven't done before, and many of us have got other jobs. And so learning as the change comes in, how to facilitate that change and build that change into an existing life and a structure that you have could be quite interesting. So that's certainly something that Nathan could answer questions on.
Yeah, and actually, just to add to that really quickly, I think it's quite easy to think that with regards to coaching, that you have to make these decisions almost like it's one or the other, that it's black and white, as it's my job and my previous life, or it's my life after coaching and my new coaching career, my coaching practice and business. And I suppose it's going to be different for all of you, but it all depends on how the lifestyle that's been spoken about earlier, what's the lifestyle you want to create, and what is it you really want to do? And then actually it's up to you how you then shape that. So,
lovely. So quick show of hands on the panel. Who is where they expected to be now when you started? Are you where you expected to be? Anybody?
Way further.
No. Okay. So there we go. So it evolves as you move along. Osman.
So I actually I'm similar to Nathan in that I have a portfolio career of sorts. I'm also similar to Nathan in that I actually started working with Animas directly on Thursday. So
poaching.
Next is poaching, of course, to help them move into the corporate market. So that's really cool. But in terms of the coaching practice, again, I'm going through a bit of a transition here. This is the worst elevator pitch ever. Over the last year and a half, my focus has been with working with Asian professionals who basically feeling unfulfilled and who've basically gone down paths in their lives which they're just not very happy with anymore. And the reason behind that is my own experiences, which led me to understand the sort of cultural pressure and expectations that a lot of people of Asian are origin can experience and how that affects them in terms of what career they're going to, what relationships, being a failure in life if you're not married by the age of 25, that type of thing. So there were a lot of people coming to me sort of saying, we really like what you've done, it's quite inspirational in that it's not going down what one might perceive as a conventional career path. So I just kind of turned that into a business and kind of went with it. But recently I've had quite a few people come to me, and specifically on the concept of confidence issues and perfectionism. So now I'm wondering whether to really sort of go down that direction. So I'm not really sure what my business is at the moment, to be honest. But I'm kind of, but it's going fairly well.
Does that matter for you at the moment?
Not at the moment, to be honest. I actually really enjoy having a portfolio career. So at the moment I'm going with it. I do kind of have an overall vision of where I want to get to, but at the same time I'm just trying to enjoy how things are going.
Oh, nice. Enjoy it. We sometimes forget to enjoy it, don't we? So that's great. So Caroline.
Well, as I mentioned, I've got a business around coaching individual private clients who find me because I don't necessarily do any marketing. And they come from a variety of backgrounds. Several of whom have come to me because they've had such a detrimental experience in being executive coached through their companies, which was quite a surprise to me. I'm a very holistic coach. The coach training in Animas, the transformational coach training, was perfect for me. And I call myself a resilience coach. I help people to flourish. And that's what we need to do in our life. My corporate work is around aspiring to wellness, and my company is actually called Wisher Together, which stands for, it's an acronym Wisher, and it stands for working, inspiring, sharing, hoping, empowering, and results. And we can only do stuff together. And Aspiring to Wellness is my brand name as a subsidiary of Wish It Together, because I set up Wish It Together before I came up with the name Aspiring to Wellness. Aspiring to Wellness is a combination of mindfulness and coaching and peer support. Mindfulness and coaching and peer support have all had a dramatic and profound effect on my life. And one of the things I realised was that the combination of mindfulness and coaching was significantly greater than either alone. And so, as was shared this morning, I found it too difficult for me at the moment. I'm not in the right place to be building a tribe and looking to fill individual workshops. So I've gone through the corporate world, and that is progressing.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thanks very much, panel. So let's throw it out to the floor now. I imagine there must be some questions coming up for people. You've got the opportunity to ask the panel here anything that may come. So, Karen?
Thanks for the backstory. So my name is Caesar. I'm going to my question now. I would actually really love, I don't know if it resonates with other people, to hear your stories and nuggets from perhaps getting your first 5 clients. Because there's something you do to get that pound, and then 5 I think is just a nice number. So I don't know if you have any interesting stories around that.
Does anybody want to answer that? It's really still around getting that first client and moving forward.
I'll kick this one off. When I was training, when I was doing my diploma, I was still working at a consultancy full-time. And one of the things I found is if you're not afraid to talk about coaching at work, in case they think you're off doing some sort of scheme to get out, then just speaking about it with passion, speaking about this course I'm doing or this journey I'm on to become a coach, and talking about it a lot, and people just start to go, oh, Nathan's doing that coaching thing. And then when you mention, I actually need to get some practice clients, whether it's the people that you've been talking to, your colleagues, even better if it's someone that they know, that's how I actually end up probably getting my first 5 clients, just through word of mouth, really. But it's about just verbalizing it, putting it out in the world, and then actually being maybe having a bit of courage to sometimes ask, do you know anyone who might benefit from that? You know, who might be interested in doing that?
Thank you.
I think I can just echo exactly what you said. I found the same thing. It's by the time I was ready to start approaching people to sign up for the first life safari, and it's not like a small commitment. It's them committing to go away from their families for a week, to travel, to another country, to get vaccinated. It's a couple of £1,000. So it's a really big thing, big commitment for them. And for me, it was a really big step to approach these people and say, hey, I've got this thing. And what I found was by the time I approached them, they already knew all about the Life Safari, because I talk about it all the time. I never called it the Life Safari. In fact, when I got my first client, it didn't have a name yet. I just said, how I always talk about those communities I used to work with? And the first client, who is an Animas person, said, yes. I said, well, I'm thinking of taking some people over. And he said, yes. And I said, so I'm wondering who I should approach. And he said, I have someone in mind. So for me, it was so easy because I was, just like Nathan said, I was living and breathing and even today wearing, and that's a total accident, the Life Safari.
Brilliant. So what's coming across here is personal contacts is quite a lot so far from what we've heard. But what about some of the other practical things that we're told about that can work? Things like directories or advertising. Has anything happened for any of you in those areas? Caroline? Oh, sorry, Osman.
Yeah, well, I'll just answer the first question quickly. I hate getting my first 5 clients. It was so painful. Just in terms of the experience, this kind of comes back to what Kath was saying in terms of feeling terrified. That telling people I was a coach, quiver when I was telling people how much I charged. The biggest piece of advice I'd give there would be that it can feel like the first 5 clients are incredibly difficult, but at some point, sometimes suddenly, sometimes gradually, things just kind of click, and it's kind of to keep on persevering until that point happens, in the knowledge that practically everyone who's been successful in business generally has been at that stage where getting every single client feels like a real struggle. And I'm not like these guys, I hate networking. So yeah, it was a real struggle, it just kind of clicked. And now I've forgotten what your other question was.
No, that's a lovely answer, because I think people do struggle to get clients. It's when you're starting out, it can be tough. So.
I enjoy it now. I do enjoy it a lot now, but yeah, I mean, starting out it was a real struggle.
Yes, it's interesting how sharing and sometimes standing and looking back from where you come from changes your perception. You can think when you're walking up a mountain that you're not getting very far, but when you turn around and you look how far you've come. So I guess thinking about it, I've tried various things. One of the things I did was I phoned up a counselling clinic fairly near where I lived, and I said I would like to do some coaching, and I went round and much to my amazement they took me on, and so I got my first few clients from there. I do have to share that it didn't go as fast as the businesswoman who ran it would have liked, so we had an arrangement for a given number of months, and at the end of that time she said it's not going that well, and I said, well, let's give it another go. So, but after that, that has come to an end. I've learned a great deal from that experience. I also found out about the Life Coach Directory, and that was through the STARS programme. Karen had used it, and for me that has been very successful. I've had some very interesting clients from there, and the great thing from my point of view is the clients that find me always buy from me. Everyone who's approached me through Life Coach Directory has purchased off me, and I haven't had to sell, and they're also the right type of client for me. And I think that's something about, you know, being authentic and being honest. I think networking is very important, and I think the things that were shared this morning about what is right for you is really important. There was a lot about meetup groups, and I went to a meetup group and it wasn't for me. Maybe I didn't give it a good enough go, but one of the things that I picked up was, again, what was shared this morning, was have a couple of things and, you know, be consistent with them. I also approached some local business groups about speaking, and one of them, a couple of them have invited me, and I've just been invited back this year because I was the best attended speaker in a women's in business group in Dulwich last year, so they invited me back, which was very nice. And some of my clients have come through the workshops that I've run. So I have run them for private clients, but I just found it such hard work that some of those converted into individual clients. So I think one of the things that I've learned, and if I was starting my journey again now, it's something that would be really important to me, and that is especially don't focus on one thing. I think 2 or 3 is very important, but don't put all your eggs in one basket. Especially if, while you're in the process that I've been in, which is finding my way. And the path can sometimes be very curved. And just talking, sharing, listening with other people has just been fantastic. And I just want to say a great big thank you to all the people who've been part of my journey, and to all of you who are part of it now. Thank you.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. Yeah, Osman's bursting to say something here.
Yeah, it's just so recently referrals have become a very important source of me getting clients, and I think if there was one piece of advice in terms of getting clients is to think about referrals, because in effect you can almost start with this from your first client. If you had a good relationship with a client and they found you coaching help, there's absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain from saying, look, I've really enjoyed working with you, I'm glad you found it useful. A lot to work, I'd be very keen on working with someone who comes through referral, because there's already an implicit sense of trust there, and the relationship is likely to be a lot more effective. And they trust you, so they'll automatically put in a good word for you as well. You can start doing that straight away, whether it's a practice client, free client, paid client, and that's becoming increasingly important. But it's something you can put into practice pretty much from the outset, I would say. So, yeah.
That's great advice. I think that's great advice. Okay, so let's throw it out to the floor again. Another question from anybody? You had a question earlier? Yeah? Okay. I told you I'd make you run from one end of the room to the other, Karen, so come on. Chop, chop.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, what was a typical week for you for coaching, if there is a typical week?
Don't all rush at once. Okay. Nathan, go for
it. Actually, sorry, Karen. Do you mind, when you say a typical week for coaching?
Oh, actually, I meant with, you said that you had 2 things happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So full-time
okay.
and also coaching around that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is trying to blend in, various different lifestyles.
So one of the I'll start with the full-time work and coaching bit. For me, what I do at the moment is I will try and have communications with clients over the phone, so that in one conversation. So when we're sort of arranging sessions, etc., if stuff needs to be spoken about over the phone, or maybe organising that first consultation, for example, if it hasn't been done on the day, means that it then takes up less time in the week. So I'm not sending emails back and forth and having to, so it just can all be done in one phone call. And it's also easier because then you can get real commitment, I find, as well over the phone. When somebody said it verbally, I think it seems to be somewhat more accountability with regards to them actually responding, because you're on the other line, on the other end. And then typical week, really, I try not to coach every evening. So what I do is I stagger my clients. So I'll have I coach my clients typically every 2 weeks. And so I'll have, say I've got 5 clients at the moment, I'll have 2 or 3 clients one week, and then 2 clients the next week, with a day in between each, just to manage my energy. I'm actually getting some sleep. And I say this as well because I've chosen to coach in the evenings, but then if your work allows for it, you may be able to find some time in the day to do sessions, especially if you're doing it over the phone or over Skype. And when I was working part-time, a typical day would be, I think, if any of you are thinking about leaving your work or cutting back on hours, one of the things I noticed is the need for that focus has been mentioned earlier, and also some structure. So really blocking in time to send emails to clients or potential clients, and actually spend that time dedicated to that. Kind of like the pre-work before the actual coaching itself. So actually kind of being very appreciating that time as much as the time I spend in an actual session.
Okay. Helpful. Thank you, yeah. So I'm conscious of time. It's moving on, so I think we've got time for at least one more question. So has anybody... Yes, here. Thank you.
Florence. So we heard this morning that one of the foundations of a business is planning. What was your first business goal in your business as you were setting up your business?
Nice question. Can anybody remember back to your first goal? Olivia?
Yeah, mine's really easy. So it was the last day of July. I said, I'm going to run a life safari or a trip. I'm going to run one, see how it goes. I'm going to get 6 people to come. That was my first goal. Within 3 weeks, I think I had 5 people signed up. And now it's October, I've got 8 people, we're booked, it's all organised pretty much, and I'm now planning the next one for Easter. So yeah, it was just, and it's funny because I didn't, when I set that goal, I didn't realise how much other stuff I had to do. It was just very simple, one trip. Of course, then I realised, I need a website, okay, did that. I need to start thinking about my accounts and my accounting and how do I pay for things in Kenyan shillings. And so it definitely got bigger as I got into it. But the goal was very simple, and it's really nice having a simple goal, because every morning I'd get up and I'd say, how many people do I have? 4. How many to go? 2. What else needs to be done on the trip? It was very simple, and that simplicity has made it feel manageable. And I didn't think of it as a business, and I think that for me was the key. I thought of it as an experiment. I'm sorry to my clients that they're guinea pigs, but I said, let's do an experiment. Sorry, Marcus. Let's do an experiment, and I've been very open with them about that, but they're actually helping me build. You didn't tell me. I did. The baby was crying. And I think having an experimental attitude has made it very comfortable for me. If I started to think about building this amazing business that takes people around the world, I wouldn't have done it. But funnily enough, the end result is a business that takes people around the world. So.
Brilliant, thank you. Okay, we've got time for one more question. Law, who's running over? Nobody? Have you got a big voice? Can you shout, stand on the table, do a dance?
Hi, thank you guys for sharing your stories. So we've heard a lot about the courage it takes to get to the client and ways to get to them. But I'm curious about, probably, maybe you, Nathan, actually, how did you convert those potential clients into clients?
I'm glad you asked. I think I've been speaking about this recently with Nick, and the other night we had a conversation about this, and about how. So in my experience, I found myself, as I began to say, okay, I now can coach, and now I want to have a coaching business, I would begin to put together the ideas. And of course, I was on the Coach Success Program, so we're making the plans for a business, etc. And what had happened somewhere along the line is I'd stopped coaching because, strangely enough, I'd been coaching all through the diploma, doing my practice hours, etc., etc. But then I was like, okay, now I've got a business and it's not ready yet. I haven't got the pitch, or I haven't got the marketing materials, so I can't get the right clients. So I haven't got any clients because I haven't yet put together the business. And what happens then is I lost confidence in my coaching. So when I'd have consultations or chemistry sessions or whatever you want to call them, or when I was talking to...
chemistry sessions? I think I want to come along to one of those now. Alchemy.
I call it a chemistry session. This is what I call it. I call it a chemistry session because you're seeing if you've got chemistry. It's not just the client choosing you, it's you choosing the client as well. It's a little thing.
That's called a date, Nathan.
I wondered why they found that accountability bit. So I think my advice for that is that the thing for me, the conversion bit happens when I say to a potential client I'm sitting across from that I can help them, and saying that from a place that is authentic. I can help you, sort of thing. It might not be those words, but I'm communicating that. I think that's incredibly powerful for people because really you can tell them, all the stuff about your business and the bits and bobs that you do and how it's, completely different to this service or this service. At the end of the day, all your potential client really wants to know is, can you help them? I think. And so if you don't believe that yourself, it becomes very difficult to convert, so to speak. But when you truly believe in your ability to help the person sitting opposite you, I think that's where the conversion happens in those consultations.
Lovely.
So
authenticity again.
And so keep on coaching while you're building the business, whether it's with your ideal clients or with anyone. Just keep on doing it to keep on, nourishing that skill and that identity.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, so just to wrap up, we've got 30 seconds, each of you. If there's one piece of advice or takeaway that you could give to the room today, what would that be, very quickly?
My one thing is be really, really damn good at what you do. Be so good that you feel comfortable asking for people to exchange something in return. Be so good that you're not afraid to tell people.
I said one thing.
But it's so important. Okay, so that's my...
Move
and
on.
don't talk too much.
Apart from the thing that I just said, patience, maybe. I think that any business takes time.
Brilliant. Thank you. Osman.
See failure as a badge of honour, because when you're starting up your business, when you're running a business, things are going to go wrong. But it's those failures that you learn from, and those failures that are good experiences, and which actually help give you the guts when you realise the reality is not as bad as the fear.
Lovely. Thank you. Quickly, Caroline, come on.
Well, mine's very similar to Osman's, but I didn't like the F word. I think we all have knocks in life. We all trip up. We all fall down, and we need to get up and keep going. And that's where resilience comes in, because you will have knocks in life. Get up again and keep going. It's not the falling down, it's the number of times you get up and you keep going.
Nice, lovely. Thank you. Well, I'd just like you to do a big round of applause for the panel, please. Thank you so much. Well done. That's great.
Fabulous, thank you. Can we also give a round of applause for Marcus, please? Okay, so we're just doing a little bit of a change around, swapping mics over and stuff. So while we do that, I just want you to have a quick chat at your tables, just for maybe 2 minutes, just asking yourself or sharing the idea of What is it that you're really good at? What's the thing that you shine at, that you can identify for yourself? Just 2 minutes, off you go.